This is Charles,
And this is Emmanuel.
and you are listening to
Blight makes right.
the original Legion of Everblight podcast. Dude, you realize this is right around we've been podcasting for a year again.
Mm. It's funny. I can't say Blight makes right in the intro without smiling. Like, it just makes me happy to be back.
I know. It's because you were always sad that you were not on Mark II Blake Makes Right.
Oh, without a doubt. Like, it's hard for me to stay faction purist the way some of you guys do. And Legion is the one faction I always come back to. It's the home hordes faction for me. So, it feels right. This is a long time overdue to make it right.
Well, I mean, we had a podcast with Jake Shearer on it, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
you were immediately jealous that you were not podcasting with the Satch, the man.
It's
God,
true.
miss that guy.
Me
Been
too.
thinking a lot about the Mark II players that I miss that have moved on. Was just
Mm.
listening to one of the meta episodes with James Morehouse on it, and I didn't realize how much I missed that dude until I was listening to him nerd, and I was like, fuck, that dude's awesome.
Definitely. Tom Guan just posted a picture of them playing a game together the
Yeah.
other day, and I posted on there, oh my God, like James Morehouse is back.
Yeah,
I
for
would
sure.
love to hear more from that guy.
Yeah, obviously playing circle, but yeah, I feel bad because I was always the reason I kind of pushed you out of Legion when we were like, well, we decided not
Mhm.
to do the Legion podcast when we first started RFP, and we decided that we were going to be a general podcast, and we're like, well, we should play different things because people are talking about we're basically a Legion show, and we should have just probably been a Legion show from the get go, but
It's
whatever,
true.
shit happens. Well, so this episode, everybody, we're going to talk about the Legion stuff out of the WTC. Like, obviously, we could talk about all the crazy lists, but, fuck them. Legion it is. Which it may be at some point we may just have to revive RFP to talk about the other stuff. But right now, I'm excited to talk about Legion. So you want to start? Let's just start with Jake's list, right?
Let's just dive right in.
Yeah, let's go show JVM right off the get
Team
go.
America.
So Jake brought his classic Callus list, like a list that he totally could have played, before Oblivion, because he did. And it's interesting, and I don't know how much of this is just he is ultra comfortable with this version, and you get comfortable for how you play with all of these specific answers and this particular play style. I personally would have loved to see him do even a little tweak. And I know little tweaks are not really his style, but I still like deep in my heart and soul, I would have loved to see him do something with this. And I know he doesn't want to try to squeeze in GoLab into that style list, but I would have been interested in maybe like when Rotwings becomes a Nerif, or if he wanted to switch Gudrun for Hermit, which, obviously he doesn't like rolling with the normal stuff that people do. So, and that was kind of the change that other players were making as we go through this. But I don't know, like if I were playing his list right now with some of the things that I've seen, I probably would consider dropping Gudrun to actually go up to 3 spell martyrs, and then probably do the Gremlin Swarm. Would probably be one of like my initial thoughts, because I have been finding that I've been really getting good work out of the spell martyrs. So
Something that I noticed, and you'll see this as we go through some of these other lists, that a lot of them drop the Harrier from their list and just go with a Blightbringer as their sole War Beast in their battle group. And Callus can do it because of Hyper Regen and cut himself every turn and just heal off a couple every turn. And it nets him an extra 3 points. And I think there's enough room in there to maybe cut Gudrun and the Harrier and free up some more points. And like you said, just try some different jelly on the toast. But that's like you said too. It's not JVM style, so no expectations, right?
right. And I think cutting that, like, I think you want the 2 beasts. I tried this list and I put it on the table once, and I was like, I can see why the Harrier's in the list. No, like, rookie mistake. Don't drop the Harrier unless you're putting in another beast. And the problem is that the reason why you don't necessarily upgrade it to, say, like a Rake is still with its position. It's often hanging way back. Like, it's just kind of needs to run into a zone and be safe and be a transfer target. And you don't really want to upgrade its points to something more expensive, because then you just have something more expensive doing the same role. But I could see, like, in the right situation, maybe Gudrun and the Harrier becoming a Naga, because the Naga can do some work while still being further back, gives you access to another means of magic weapons. But I still think you want some key solos in there so you're not just relying on the incubi. So
You
I think
know,
you have to be delicate with any changes that you do make.
I'm actually pro rake. I think that the rake has place in spread the net when you're running a Blightbringer because you need something to get to that far zone. And sometimes our beast will end up fighting their way through to get there, and the rake's just like, oh, you didn't put enough stuff back here to do anything for me jumping in the zone, killing that one thing and scoring. So thanks for the point.
Yeah. All right, well, let's talk about his other list. So he brought Fayana 2 in Ravens. So I totally dig this. He went with 3 Nerfs, Golab, Seraph, double Sorceress and Hellion for free, Kralix for free, a Spell Martyr, 2 Forsaken, full Rot Wings, and then Striders with UA, and then Gobber Bellows crew. And I dig this. Like this is a good design list. I could see me playing this. It does a lot of work. I don't know. I might want to switch the Rot Wings for a 4th Nerf, but who knows? Maybe you just can't bring that shit to Belgium. Too many wings.
I like the list a lot. I think that there's a lot of value in the triple Nerf, especially with Golab, the 4 sprinting heavies. You got the
Yeah.
Seraph in there for the positional tricks. But there's something that JVM and I just disagree on a fundamental level. And I even heard it. So I'm wearing my Blightbringers podcast shirt on tonight because I thought we were going to have one of their guys. And JVM was on their podcast recently talking about the WTC lists.
Mm-hmm.
And he says how much he likes Kralix. And I'm sorry, JVM. I just don't like him. In particular in this list. So the -2 strength, I think, just doesn't go as far with all the light armored beasts. You just don't need it as much. In the Thax list, it kind of made sense. Stack on an arm stack. But I just don't like it. I think that he's an expensive 6-point solo even for free. And everything he does depends on living. So I would probably even take something cheaper like a Forsaken for free and free up some points. And maybe the Gobbers Bellows crew and something else and try to get a better slot there.
I can see why you run Kralix in this because it does give you a -2 defense in addition to what the Seraph can do. So I fundamentally see why you would want that, right? Like it's the one mat fixer in the list outside of the Seraph. But I could easily see me doing kind of like what you mentioned, where make a Forsaken for free. So I gain 4 points, and then like the Spell Martyr and Forsaken could become Eilish.
Yeah.
Spell Martyr and the Forsaken becoming free gives you 5 points. So then you've got access to a Puppet Master. You've got access to
Unbinding.
Unbinding, which is important because, obviously, this is potentially a list that you want to be able to play into like Grimkin, and Enfeeble sucks.
Yes.
Now, mind you, it's not like you're banking too hard, like on any one particular thing, so it's not like Enfeeble's the worst, but I think it still empowers you quite a bit, and that would give you another way to like deal with incorporeal stuff because you've got that guy can walk up, blast a spell, move back. Like there's cool things that you could do, but I get like you probably need that defensive fixer in there, and so
I get that. She doesn't have a lot of access to things that offer hit buffs, and so that being one of them. I'll buy it. I'll buy it, Charles.
You've paid your subscription, right? Okay.
Sure.
All right. Well, what list do you want to talk about next?
Let's just move right down the list. Like, there's no
reason. I don't know. There's a list.
You sent them to me. How is there not?
I just spammed you with lists. I don't know the order. So which one?
So the next one we've got.
I suppose we should say like JVM. He was on Team USA East. They came in 5th. They didn't suck. They're quality. Unlike the other US teams, you failed us.
I'm really excited about you telling me your opinions on this next team's list.
Okay.
Because it's Callus 1 and Twins, and you are much more the Twins whisperer than I am. So I want your feedback.
Okay, well, getting over to that particular one. So
Um,
one
Belgium and sour.
Belgium, yeah.
Esnor.
Niels. I'm not gonna try to do his last name, but Niels on Belgium E. Okay, that's where we're
Yeah,
Belgium E.
that
Uh,
Belgium.
yeah, Belgium E for
You know who
electronic.
you are, Belgium.
Yeah. Okay, so why don't you go through the list? Because
Sure,
talked about
totally.
JVMs. All right.
So we were just talking about Callus One, so we'll come back to his list
Okay.
and see if there's any differences. But we got Twins and Ravens of War.
Okay.
We got the Twins with Golab, Seraph, and Zerial as their battle group.
Okay.
Two free Blightedness, Sorceress, and Hellions.
Mm-hmm.
Grotesque Assassin for free. A second Grotesque Assassin they paid for because they're so good. Hermit of Hengehold. Strider Deathstalker times 2, Feral Valkyries, double Hellmouths, Strider Scouts with the Musician and Officer.
Hmm. Very interesting. So, like, obviously, I think if you're gonna play the twins, you probably are playing them with GoLab.
Mm-hmm.
So that totally makes sense. I do like Seraph with them, potentially extending threat ranges or potentially helping with that sprint movement afterwards. Cool there. Zuriel is kind of a questionable play in my mind. I know obviously like Zuriel gets stuff and Zuriel gets, channeler for them. So that's kind of nice, but I'm still worried that he's a little doesn't quite it's not quite that he's overcosted. I just think that he needs something. And I'm not really sure what that something should be, but I feel like he should do something just a little bit more. And I'm hoping he eventually gets that. But he does get free charges because he's flying. Um, and I really like grotesque assassins in general, especially with a lot of these flag scenarios, having sprinting grievous wounds solos. Like I
Mm-hmm.
definitely can get behind that. Hermit is pretty cool. You got a lot of sprint in this list, so he can potentially like debuff something, and then stuff can still get out of the way. He also like potentially increases Rias's like what she can murder because he could just go up like debuff something and then like she kills it and then sprints back and so nothing's really getting penalized by his aura. Um, and one of the things I'll say, like, we were actually talking about this. You had just mentioned the JVM episode where he was on the Blightbringers, um,
Mm-hmm.
and I listened to that as well. And one of the things um, that he had mentioned was sometimes you take that hit on Riot and you're camping 2 or 3, so you're ready for transfers, and they're just like clockered. It's like a charge and it's like 18 damage, and you're like, she's dying anyway. Fuck it, I'm not transferring this damage to my beast. Just kill her.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that back in Mark 2. I remember people would walk into her with like a fully loaded storm wall or something and just be like, Rias is gonna die. They'd hit the first attack and just like, and I'm like, I ain't fucking transferring this damage to my beast. You've got 3 more focus.
Yep.
Like, just get her off the table. He can't punch anything else. And then they're like, oh, I was totally ready for you to be transferring damage and worried about not hitting. And I'm like, no, fuck, she's dead. But I like that the Hermit could eat one of those attacks, like that big charge into her, because when
Mm-hmm.
it hits hard. But you're not under the obligation to use it. So if they go in and like they miss that first attack and she riposte, like then you're like, okay, cool. I hold the Hermit, and maybe she'll transfer. But if they come in hard, then and that first attack, and you're just like, nope, it does nothing. Um, and so that I think Hermit does a lot for that particular list. And I think it potentially I almost think that if you're going to play them that may be a big part of making that all factor in because they're going to have to like really dedicate when they want to go in on Rias. Like she's not easy to hit and kill. And then they're like, well, you've got the Hermit. So they have to go all in. And you're just like, oh, you went in too heavily. Like, I'm not blowing the Hermit. I'm not blowing any transfers. You kill her. I'm just going to bring her back. Cool. Uh,
I
so,
like it.
yeah. What do you think of the list?
Well, I normally would agree that Zuriel, I think, is kind of a boat anchor at his point cost. But playing him a lot with Thags, I've always felt that if he had just a little bit more, He'd probably be on par. And running him with the twins and getting best of both worlds and getting stealth and channeler is really good. I think in particular, getting stealth in this list is even stronger, right? Because this list really hates on ranged attacks. You got 2 free sorceress and hellions that are high boxes with a no range attack aura. Both grotesque assassins have stealth. Both strider deathstalkers have stealth. Feral Valkyrie shield guards, strider scouts have stealth. So the only things that they can shoot at are the Hellmouths, Golab, the Seraph, and the Twins, which he has shield guards for. And Twins can also pass out stealth. So
Oh, and
I
I
think,
love stealthy sorcerers on Hellions. You're like,
oh
if you get
yeah,
within 5 inches, you can't shoot.
amazing.
Yeah.
And they're amazing solos by themselves. Like way worth the 6 points. One of the best, I feel, theme benefits that I've seen out there is the free Sorceress and Hellion. And I think outside of that, I agree with you. The Hermit bringing the vision to the list, I think is really key. Like I think it could be something you see a lot more if you see twins hit the table.
Yeah. And that's honestly, that was I don't think I'd really clicked until this moment, like how much the Hermit interacts really positively with them.
Mm-hmm.
And so that I like. And one of the things with double sorcerers on Hellion and having the Striders, like say if you play that list into Scorn, like they can auto point like all the immortals. Like the Deathstalker solos will kill 4, and then they can create like all of the auto points for the Strider Scouts. So the Strider Scouts will then kill like 8. And so you imagine just like auto pointing and killing 8 immortals on, or sorry, there'd be a total of like 12 immortals with just though, like without factoring in anything else in the list, like grotesque assassins and Rias. Just those guns are gonna take 12 immortals off the table on Zal's feet turn, maybe.
And it's good versus that list too, because typically they're backed up by battle engines, and having a non-committal way to deal with the immortals means that the battle engines can't just counter strike into whatever you put there, because you're not really I mean, like what they're gonna counter strike into maybe the Hellion, and it's like, oh, did
Yeah.
you trade your battle engine for my free solo? I like this.
Yep, I dig it. Um, one of the things I could see if you were doing this particular list, like I could potentially see wanting a Scythian in here because obviously you can put self on it to help protect it, and giving Rias access to grievous wounds I think could
Mm,
be pretty significant. She's got flashing blade, right?
yeah.
So you can go into she's got reach, so she can potentially go up to stuff, grievous wounds, flashing blade first to like kill and like say she misses one or she fails to damage one, then she takes her initial on that one, finishes it off, then uses sprint and backs away,
Mm.
right? So she can ignore tough, like still getting a bunch of attacks. Like there's some really cool interactions there, that I think would be pretty cool. But
I like the interrupting a charge to use flashing blade to save your primary attack for whatever survives the flashing blade. That's adorable, Charles. That's
yeah,
adorable. That's gonna be somebody's Blight Makes Right moment one
yeah.
day.
I mean, that's the thing you do there, right? Like I remember the Butcher days, like Butcher 3 coming in, you're like he flashing blades first and like, oh, I didn't kill that heavy. I guess I'll pop that with one attack. Like,
Yep.
sad times. All right, well let's talk about his other list too, because he's playing he's playing a slight variation on one of the Omnis Horde Callus lists. So he played something a lot like what I played at LVO, but he took the Warmongers down to min so that he could put in the Hermit, and then because you can't run the Hermit and the Feral Geist, he switched the Feral Geist for Swamp Gobbers. Now I can dig that because it does give you the ability to put concealment on Callus, or concealment for Golab or like some Nerif. So like I could definitely see that. I think if I were doing this right now with the way that I've been seeing things and I wanted to play this, I think I would heavily consider running 3 Spell Martyrs. Like there's some really key scenarios where, especially like I run a Spell Martyr up to each of the flags, and then if they kill it on feet turn, it becomes an incubi that can still control the flag.
Hmm.
Love it.
I think it's interesting to have the Swamp Gobbers Bellow crew in a list with Callus because just last episode we were talking about how useful Eruption is, and sometimes you're like, I need to make a mini cloud wall. So Bellows crews go in, and then like I Eruption a few tentacles or something, and now I've got a whole wall of clouds.
For sure. And I think if you, I mean, I'm becoming less and less of a fan of a Warmongers. And so with 8 points paid for the min unit and you're paying for Amok, you could potentially drop the Warmongers, make Amok free, and you gain 12 points, which could be another nerf.
You love nerfs.
Well, especially in this particular pairing where I think he could very reasonably play twins into Scorn. And that's one of the matchups where I think the Warmongers do the most work is going into the Immortals. So
that's a very valid point, Charles.
Thank you. Thank you for now the word's escaping me. Thank you for validating me, Emmanuel. You make me feel like a complete person.
Well, I think that you hit the money right where it was, where you said that, like, if the Twins can pick up the Scorn match, because we just discussed how well it could play into the Immortals match, and it potentially could play into some of the other, like, counterattack matchups, like Zadesh. Callus 1 then be, like, picking up some extra points and an extra Nerf means that he can probably play better into, like, what?
I mean, I think that would potentially help it into the circle matchup, giving you additional heavies. Like, so if you play into Wormwood, they have more things that they potentially have to try to stranglehold. And at the same time, it's not like the Warmongers are going to stand up to the Ravagers. Like, if they get charged by a Ravager, they're probably dead, right? Like, so the Warmongers are not durable enough to take a POW 18 charge. And so I think having another heavy back there that again, that's like they can actually miss a Nerf. Like
you're right.
That shit happens. Yeah.
I think it also strengthens you a bit into mercenaries when you have things like Bart, whose feet knocks everything down. Now you have another heavy. You have 3 heavies that have no knockdown, which gives you like a legitimate assassination package to go get his ass. And then if you have like a Galleon or Blockader who's like, oh, I beat your Nerf to death. It's like, oh, you killed my 12-point heavy with your Colossal. Congratulations on how that trade goes.
Yeah, improves the peace trade for sure. Okay. But yeah, I dig this. I think this is a solid, interesting pairing, and this something along these lines had been crossing my mind because obviously I like Callus with I'm calling this the the Horde package, like good mixture of beasts and units, and like just makes it really hard for people to effectively peace trade against it, and like it just amplifies everything, and so. I'm definitely behind that list, and I liked where he was going with twins. Like I could very easily see playing this or like a slight variation on this because it has so much anti-shooting tech in there. Like I can see him potentially wanting to play this into Scorn. Like say he sees Rasheth or something like that. Like you can try to be forcing them to like put some of those early shots into the Blightedness Sorceress on Hellions. Like, I'm going to force you to kill them for you to, like, trample up far enough and be able to shoot the things behind them. I'm going to make you kill them first and just, like, force them to waste shots onto these free solos. And then that potentially gives you more time to, like, gain scenario presence. And so,
I like it.
Yeah, I'm down. Okay, well, I suppose it's my turn. I got to pick something to talk about, right?
Okay, well, there's one you can't pick because I'm going to pick it, but you can pick
I can't pick anyone that's not that. Oh, I know. I know the one I wanted to talk about. I just have to like have it in front of me. Okay, I want to talk about the one that brought Vale.
Yeah, are you talking about Finland?
Yes, I'm talking about Finland.
That's the one I was gonna pick. Oh, Finland's so awesome. Vale and Animag. Oh, well, I love them so much.
Yeah, well, I didn't think about the fact, but this is like I think one of like the only Vale player maybe, but the Finns are so ridiculous. God, I'm not telling Finn stories on the air again. That from my crazy Poland years, but I think there's a part like thinking of the Finns and thinking about my Poland adventure in 2014, I think I'm just going to plan, like, I don't think that I've done anything significant enough to like get on a WTC team for 2020, but I think I'm just going to go and play in Solo Masters. I just want to go. Okay, so we're going to talk about Finn. So this is Finn Lonrat, as I believe the team. I'm probably saying that terribly. But Polly is brought Animag and Vale. So he kind of like appealed to both of our deep, dark, blighted hearts.
Mm-hmm.
But how about I'll do the Vale list and then you can talk about the Animag list. Seem fair? Okay. Yeah. So do the Vale first. So he brought Vale in Children of the Dragon.
I like how he's like, do the Vale first. Oh, did they say do the Vale first? I'll do the Vale first.
Yeah. Would you guys like to just tell me, just like by a round of applause, would you like me to talk about the Vale one? Yeah! Vale! Yeah! Okay, the fans have spoken. They want to talk about Vale.
Our live studio audience and Charles have decided.
Okay, so Children of the Dragon, Vale 1. She gets Azrael and Typhon. So already you've got a pretty significant assassination threat there.
Without a doubt.
And then you've got Anissa, you've got Kralix, you've got Blackfrost Shard, you've got 2 full units of archers and a unit of raptors. I will say, obviously, I have been liking her in PT, but I can see why you'd want to do some of the classic shenanigans in Children of the Dragon, being able to play her with Typhon back in like classic JVM, 2013 era Vale, 2012 probably more 2012, and play Typhon with her. But I think if you're going to do the Typhon route with her, I think you really want a Seraph. And so I'd love if Polly actually listens to the show, I would really be interested in seeing like how he felt about the list afterwards. Because I think one of the big parts, if you were going to play Typhon with her back in the day, is Seraph was like almost equally as important. Like that 2 inches often made the difference between Vale being able to catch the things in Insight and Typhon being able to get there for some of those abusive sprays. So I'm very interested to see how he felt about that. Adding Azrael to the mix is plenty scary, and does some really cool things for the list. Azrael is also a really crazy, like both Typhon and Azrael have crit effects that can be really crazy Dark Sentinel turns. Like, you're like, oh, you triggered Dark Sentinel? How about a crit smite to the face or a crit throw? Like, both are crazy and they're high mat. But one of the things thinking about this, like right off, one of the things that jumps out at me is this could be very scary for a Kruger 2 player. Because Kruger 2 can end up in a situation where if he feats on stuff like Raptors, for instance, they're speed 9, so they only go back to speed 7. And even with Stormwall, speed 7 plus range 7 is 14 inches. So you got to be careful with, like, if he gets too far forward and even catches Raptors in the feet, like, they can still potentially walk forward and shoot him.
Mm-hmm.
And Anissa can make them accurate enough. Like, you've got ways of potentially like running something up to give him chiller. And Typhon, obviously you can't decrease the speed of sprays or the range of sprays. So this is something that I feel like could scare Kruger. But I don't have like any experience with archers. So that part, but I feel like he wants to murder some people because this is like Kralix and Blackfrost Shard for like buffing and debuffing and like lots of guns. Like, I feel like he wants to like drop the bomb and just take casters off the table.
Okay.
But do you have any thoughts on it?
I do.
Go for it. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts, Mr. Thunderdunk?
Mr. Thunderdunk, right. Well, my initial thoughts is he probably main listed Animag because he knew who the strong one was in the pair. And so this was his like off list where he was like, I'm going to do some fun stuff with this because Vale, nobody plays Vale, right? And then...
right in the heart. Ugh.
Shut to the heart, but you're okay. Okay, so anyways, it's very range centric, and it's something that I considered really heavily when looking at a pair for Animag because Animag tends to be just that brick breaker melee beatdown, and sometimes armies just shut that down. You're like, I need something that doesn't do anything like my other list. And inside guns are good, and like I think the crit smite on Azrael is on his gun, and so you're just like. Okay, well, I walk over here and doosh, throw that at you in a Dark Sentinel, and thank you for walking near me.
Yes. I am dubbing this list pair girl power.
Okay. Okay.
Animag Veil one combo. I think it is the best the best lady casters in the faction right now. Animag one and
buff
Veil one.
casters too, so he's got good stuff.
Well, and I think they complement each other very well. Where you have Animag is definitely the like I'm gonna fucking alpha you and you were gonna hate it. Like sure you're gonna kill some stuff and then I'm gonna pop my feet and you're gonna lose fucking everything. And Veil is very much like I'm gonna do things to you that you did not want to have happen, and then right before it's your turn, I'm gonna reposition everything. And like that's one of the ways that the archers can actually end up working because they have to like clump up to like get their extra shot, and then she can like just with her feet and like then they all spread back out.
Yep.
And so then they can do it again. And so there's a lot of things where like they both Animag is just like, by the way, you're gonna lose a bunch of shit. And now you're starting your turn with less stuff than you thought. And Veil's like, I took a bunch of shit from you and you were all planning to how to deal with my stuff, and then I moved everything. So have fun, get wrecked, nerd.
Well, and I think there's definitely some hit and run where you wither your opponent, right? So the turn one, you run your archers, you run Azrael, you run Typhon, you run Anissa, fucking 16 inches up the fucking table, however fast she is. And you just really put pressure on your opponent. Because now if they move forward, they're in gun range. But if they don't move forward, they're not relevant. And then on the second turn, you still move up maximum range and just shoot the shit out of their army, drop all the arrows, Azrael drops bombs, Typhon drops sprays, and you feet and you back the hell up. And you're just like, now I've cut the whole front line of your army off, and I backed up far enough that you probably can't close that distance. Move in or die. And then they move in again, you get another turn of shooting, and it's like, all right, can a third of your army now beat in a bunch of archers? Because once they close ranks with you, that army's going to fold. There's not a whole lot to keep it alive. There's no recursion. There's no defensive shenanigans. Archers just die to a stiff breeze. Like the Typhon Azrael combo is nice, but there are no buffs for them in this list to keep them alive other than like Dark Sentinel shenanigans.
Yeah.
So,
offense is the best defense is a good offense. It's
yeah.
really both of these lists.
The sun with arrows.
Yeah. I mean, I would say like the Animag list is fairly classic, but it does go the one single beast, and like she probably has to eat hellmouth tentacles regularly.
We were just talking about that.
Yeah. And it's 4 units, but one of the units is Pharaoh Valkyries. And so this is very much a non-traditional Animag list in its construction. Like it's got some war spears in there. And I mean, I see, like, obviously, War Spears do have good synergy with...
You're stealing my Thunder Dunk. This is supposed to be my list.
I'm sorry, Thunder Dunk. Take over, then.
Get out of here. So let me show you how it's done. Let me show you how it's done. Over here. All right, so we've got
It almost looks like you're talking to someone, like, off-screen, where you're just like, who's that asshole?
The thing is, if I put my palm up right in front of me, the camera's immediately going to try to zoom in and, like, focus on my hand, and then it's going to zoom back out on my face. It's going to wreck the whole image. We're not going to do it. Yeah. But let me tell you about Animag.
Yeah.
We got Animag 1 in Primal Terrors. Animag, the Doom Feaster, with the Blightbringer as her sole battle. Amok the Truth Bearer, Warmonger War Chief, Blighted Ogre and Warmongers, with Gorag Rotten Eye as a free card selection. Blighted Ogre and War Spears with the War Spear Chieftain.
Someone's been listening to some Audible books.
Chosen of Everblight, Max. Pharaoh Valkyries, because he has good taste for keeping stuff alive. And then Double Hellmouth, because who doesn't love a mouthful of hell? Yes. Yes. All right.
Mouth full of hell. Okay. I'm I'm with you. So how do you feel about this hell?
Uh,
So this mouthy hell experience that you have going on over here?
well, the hellmouth feels good. Like in and around the palate. It feels
Yeah.
right.
Well, you
Um,
are a seafood guy. You like,
sure. We've talked a couple of times about how war spears take strength buffs really well because their weapons are thrown, just like Azrael in the Veil 1 list. So you can really stretch out her strength buff both in melee and range attacks. Adding some range attacks forces things into your brick a little bit more. You have more than just the big Blightbringer shot. Um, I think that we you might have hit the nail on the head. As much as I'd like to drop the Harrier from her list, it's probably not the right choice because no transfer targets. And having that extra scoring beast, it really matters in the current packet. Like, there are more scoring zones for War Beasts than there are for troops, period. Um, the rest of it's pretty streamlined. Having Gorag and the Warmongers, the double Hellmouth and the Chosen is all bread and butter. Um, the Pharaoh Valkyries, I think, is an interesting choice that I played around with for a little while when first playing her. It gives you more bodies. Like when you start having a list this beefy, right? You start counting boxes and you're like, oh, this list has like 230, 245 boxes, something like that. And then when your solos start being hardy, and they're there as a support piece, but can still get work done and still be a hard on the attrition value, then you're like, all right, now this list just went up to 250 boxes because I had traded out those 8 points of solos for this 8 points of Valkyries. And so it's an interesting choice. The only thing is she can't multiply any of their threat. She can't do anything good for them other than her feat with Dark Shroud. And I don't even know if that works. Like it's okay. Like they're okay choices, but there are other ways I'd spend that 8 points. Probably getting a Harrier would be my first choice, Charles.
yeah.
um, but he played Animag, so he made the right choice, and I like him for it already. I don't know who Polly is, but he's a kindred spirit.
Yeah.
Veil 1 Animag, Blightbringer, Blight makes
Girl
red
power.
girl power.
I can dig it. Well, I didn't want to like steal any of your thunder dunking there.
Yeah, get up out of my thunder dunk. Show you how it's done.
Yeah, I will say though, like I've been struggling to run the Warmongers and the War Spears. I have triple War Spears painted, and I was excited about playing them. But honestly, I think the losing the 2 inches of deployment really hurt that sort of design. And I was thinking, like having some more guns for Animag that allowed her to like go. Everything in my army has vengeance, so if you fucking touch anything, shit's moving forward. But I think losing the 2 inches of deployment and the increase in the difficult terrain kind of makes those models struggle a bit more. And I really like Chosen with her. Like,
Yes. Chosen at Pathfinder natively, they're amazing. The thing is that the War Spear package is the same exact cost at 20 points
yeah,
as the Chosen package, and the Chosen package is amazing. Double Chosen, I think, is how they're supposed to be played. Like the way when I play Double Chosen, I'm like, okay, this works. So I haven't. I'm not prone, especially with the decrease of hills and the increase of rubble, we see more cover instead of elevation, and they don't want to see more defensive buffs unless it's their prey target, and even then you're only negating the extra 2 defense that they gain from having cover instead of hills.
yeah, it's a difficult proposition, but like overall, like I like the dude. Like Animag and Veil seems like a good techie choice to like go into this meta. I think both of them are better than a lot of people are giving them credit for, and I'm glad to see they're being explored.
Yep. Good job, Pollard. Good job, Team Finland.
All right,
Oh, is
let's.
that Team France? No, that's Team Finland.
Oh,
What are
I
we doing
suppose.
next?
Oh, I that was the one that you wanted to talk about, and I stole from you.
It's
So,
true.
what do you want to talk about next?
Man, um, honestly, I want to talk about one of these that have Absolunia too. Like we have three
Okay.
lists
Well,
with
let's
Absolunia
talk
too.
about the let's talk about the Legion player on the winning team then, right?
Okay.
Um, so that's Norway M. Okay. Do you have that one in front of you?
No,
No. What a
no.
slacker.
I thought you were gonna do the Thunder. I was gonna not steal your dunk.
No, it's cool. So it's the oh, I got him in front of me now if you want.
Okay,
Or
go
okay.
ahead.
So he rocked Callus 1 and Absolonia 2. So let's just do the Callus first.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can pull it up and I'm gonna let you kind of like
I've
start on
got it open.
Absolonia 2 because you're nerding out a little.
Mm-hmm.
So he did experiment a little bit. He's kind of playing along the lines of the classic JVM list, but he drops the Harrier and he drops Gudrun and he has two Spell Martyrs. And then he does Min Warmongers to bring in Gorag. So Gorag's free instead of the Amok. And he only has a Min Rotwings. But basically, so he loses 4 Rotwings, but he gains 4 Warmongers. And one of them's Gorag. So definitely an interesting play there. But I mean, he's on the winning team, so obviously he was thinking about something there. Callus obviously regens, so he can get by without the Harrier, and he's paired it with a beast heavy list. So there may be some very very specific intentions that one list plays into the more beast oriented scenarios. And I might be wrong, but I think he's actually played Absolonia 2 more than he played Callus 1 at the WTC. But overall, I like the Callus direction. He's playing around with some things. I mean, I think this list still could have been played in pre-Oblivion. Like, there's nothing about this that couldn't have been done before. So maybe it is something that he was practicing and decided to stick with. But I dig the list. Obviously, I mean, I prefer the flying beast with him, but there's also something safe about Blightbringer and Callus. And depending on the shooting matchups and stuff, like Blightbringer and Chosen does skew like the Sloan matchup and some of those. And I think Sloan's getting in more play. There may have been some concerns that Sloan might be picked up as the off list for Infernals. So things to think about there. But why don't you talk about the Absolonia 2 list? Because this is where my blighted Ghiblies start getting a little quivery.
You know, it's funny. Right before this podcast, I was like, Charles, I think I'm gonna start playing some more Absolunia too. And you're like, oh really, Emmanuel? Tell me more. And I'm like, I don't know. I just have an inkling. And then we look down and a bunch of these WTC lists have great Absolution 2 lists. This one in particular, I think is really interesting. So he's
Yeah.
got 4 heavies. He's got Golab, a Nerf, Proteus, and a Seraph. So 2 main combat heavies, 2 support heavies. Um, and then he's got like 130 something boxes and lessers. He's got 6 free Harriers and then 5 Shredders.
Yes.
Hermit, a Forsaken, double Hellmouth. So all that fury and just the one lonely Forsaken.
Well, the plus side is they all run for free with her. Like
Yeah.
that's just something in Mark II. Alpha Hunter didn't grant running for free. But now it does. So that really helps facilitate this sort of package in a way that the other lists would not. But that's a lot of crap. Like, and I don't mean crap in a bad way, but there's got like this is not a list that anybody practiced against.
Oh
But
yeah, for
clearly,
sure.
since 2 of the Norway teams played slight variations on this, they very clearly were practicing this and going, "This is a problem."
Yeah, people weren't ready for it for sure.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, well, so at the end of Mark II, there was a lot of lists that was about screwing up people's ability to peace trade, right? You had the Bradigus list with tons of lights. You had the elemental whatever list, the Calandra list with crap tons of lights. Any of these lists were really messing with the traditional aspects of how peace trading was going to work. And this this list kind of does that in spades, where Absolonia can get good work out of any of these pieces, right? And uh, they can do realistic work, and it really skews the numbers because I found a lot of the time that 13 boxes on a light or on a lesser is just about perfect. People will deal damage to them, and it's really commonly 8, 9, 10, 11 damage. Something
Hmm.
about how the average attacks work, just often it becomes really awkward to just outright murder one, right? So say for example, you shoot it with a POW 15 and their armor, 13, dice +2, right? Like it's really easy for it to be like 10 damage +2. Oh, I leave it on one box. Like this sort of stuff just happens really on average numbers, really commonly with the lessers. And so they can be really awkward because you kind of like, if I could get him with one shot, great. But when you have to put in that extra shot, then it feels really inefficient. And I
Yep.
think this list was going to take advantage of that, probably in spades.
I don't disagree. Um, I think that the obstruction, line of sight blocking terrain in the center of the table also helped Apollonia a lot. Because before, back in our day of Apollonia, it was like, back in my day, you're running across basically some of these more open style tables, and if you're lucky, you put her on a hill, and your opponent's shooting a bunch of your lists as you get there. Now it's like, oh, well, you can boost to hit that lesser. I only have 7 to 8 more coming that direction. And she can run up behind a house and use that as a bunker to fight from behind, get in the middle of the table, kill a few things, trigger Alpha Hunter, come back, hide behind the house again, and then it's like, oh, do you want to get closer to the swarm to try to get closer to Absolonia? Good luck.
Well, yeah, like this may also be something where this list, like I would love to hear his thoughts if he ends up listening to the show or wants to respond. But I feel like, especially if their team is actively trying to choose tables, if you put Absolonia in a table with a forest or a hill, like sorry, not a hill, but a forest or a house right in the middle of the table, that Absolonia and GoLab can go get behind and then like fly over, murder shit, sprint back,
Yeah, totally.
right? Like that sort of situation. And when you have control over potential tables, one of them always is going to have that as an option when you're looking at 5 different tables. So if you're picking tables, the Absolonia players are like, give me a table with line of sight blocking terrain in the middle. And like that sort of list would be a nightmare to deal with in that situation.
I
Like,
agree.
so I'd be interested to see like how often they specifically use that to their advantage, because that feels good. But yeah, do you think this list is gonna like spike up in interest post? I don't have 6 Harriers. I can't play this. I have the Shredders, but I would have to like pull off Grotesque Wings and start sticking them on Shredders or something. But I don't know. I can see myself picking up some more Harriers, and
Yeah, I mean, so what's 3 packets of Harriers? Like,
well, I only need 2 packets of
list.
Harriers. I already have 2. Like,
Yeah, definitely. I have at least a
so
couple, so
yeah,
it's doable. Like
yeah.
I'm curious how it do. I may run some different package just to get some more solos or something in there. But when you're running it with Callus as your pair, you know that he's gonna play in your 3 flag scenario. So meh, I don't know. I have to try. I have to try it. Like
Yeah.
Charles, we have to try this list.
Yeah. I could see, depending on the scenarios that you want to play it for, and you're gonna have so many bodies forward on the table. Um, I could potentially see myself dropping the Hellmouths out of this list. I know that, makes other people like, Hellmouths, they're so amazing. But I could see me, because you could potentially get like 3 solos into that. And so you could potentially do like 2 Deathstalkers and a second Forsaken, which could give you even more Fury management. And it would, one of the things that you might struggle with is actually facing off against too many single wound infantry. Obviously, like everything's gonna have reach, so you're gonna be able to like get shit downtown. But being able to pick off some of those things and like get your solos onto key flags, like having some Deathstalkers that are Def 15,
Hmm.
and like having Deathstalkers to trigger get an auto point on something for Go Lab is a pretty big deal too. Um, So like I could see going some sort of route like that. But also, can we just talk about what Hermit does potentially for an assassination run? Where you're like, Golab's going downtown. You're like, I got a free strike. And you're like, well, the Hermit says you don't.
That's interesting. You
Yeah.
know, so doesn't the hermit strip all the fury off stuff too
When it
when you pop
dies.
him?
Yeah.
So like that would actually be a positive in this list because you just like max out a bunch of shredders and then run the hermit up right behind him and you're like, go ahead, kill my hermit. See if I care.
That would actually be pretty funny. You're like all these shredders and stuff, like clear out this like say especially in like the new incursion scenario, because you could have the hermit like up on one of the flags, like right in the middle, and he's like camming the flag, and there's just beasts all over the place, and you're like, well, I've got to kill him, and you like kill him, and you're like, whoop, fury management.
That's kind of adorable. He's like a super Forsaken in that.
Yeah, like reverse Forsaken. It's
You
like,
know, now with all the hermit mods, we need to see a Forsaken hermit out there for Legion.
yeah. Oh, you're making me sad though. We didn't get the I want like an Everblight abomination that's kind of like an Everblight Archon, but it's just like this giant large base Forsaken with wings. That's just like this weird crazy shit that Absolonia made. Like, hey, they're bringing Archons. Let's make some crazy shit. Like,
Yeah, for sure. I would be fine with that.
yeah. Because I mean, like you could naturally like have it like pull fury off of something, and then like buy like bigger attacks and stuff, and like you could give it like some other fury ability, and maybe even like buff other Forsaken. Like there's a lot of like room to play around with something like
That would be so awesome.
And it'd be a large base solo, and like most of the themes can't take large base solos anyway, so it'd be fine. It wouldn't ruin anyone's day.
Absolonia could give it Ashen Veil.
I'm double checking on the wording on its like if this thing dies, what happens.
This has all actually been just an attempt for us to stall while he looks up the hermit card.
Oh, actually, it is specifically enemy models in its command range lose their essence, cannot cast spells, cannot channel. So I don't think he actually strips any fury. He just strips essence.
Oh, well then, I'm wrong.
Yep, I haven't actually played him with. I just started working on his base. Like the wash dried on him last night, so I have my hermit, and I've been starting to read through the Oblivion book at work. So. It's a cool little model. I know some people were complaining, but sometimes I just like simple, easy models.
Yeah, for sure. The Archons for Minoth have been amazing. Not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Sneaking in some RFP time.
Yeah. Oh geez, they look awful. I mean awful in a way like I'm not sure I'm gonna enjoy playing against them.
They're really good, Charles.
Yeah. They don't suck. I'll give you that much for sure.
Their models are amazing too. I just magnetized the hips on mine and they just snap together so nicely.
Yeah. So on the subject of that Absolonia list again, one of the other things that I like is if you're trying to trigger Alpha Hunter with Absolonia 2 and you're just like, I'm going to use the spell, like, he doesn't have a spell martyr in this one, but say you're going for that spell sling, right? You're just going to like hex bolt something to try to like trigger Alpha Hunter. One of the nice things is you could still set up Golab to deny tough to the model that she's going to hex bolt. To set up some things. And so that's one of the things that like if she's only got one spell to sling, you need it to murder. And it's nice that she now has access to an anti-tough effect that she never had before, which, you know, makes that sort of plan much better. Much better. But it's cool. Like I'm a little sad we didn't see more Legion at the WTC. But I think going into it, there's probably a lot of people who were already practicing and already felt like Legion maybe wasn't quite right, and there wasn't necessarily a ton of time. I mean, we got all of our themes pretty fast, so anyone who was potentially interested did have some time to like look at them and figure it out. But it's still, you know, a lot of the European teams and stuff, they're practicing as a team like already in January, right? And so to a certain extent, they probably were already like pretty faction focused by that point. But
Interesting thoughts.
none of the Canadians brought Legion. This saddens me a little, like, because I love the Canadians.
You let me down, Canada. Let me down.
Canada down.
So, do you want to do one more? Or you think we've done enough?
I think we've probably covered the key things in here. I don't think we need to hit on another one. We've been doing a lot of list dojo sort of episodes, and so we probably don't need to like wear people out. And so now we're starting to explore a lot of different things. I'm getting into prep for Warfare Weekend, and I am so sad I don't get to see you. I mean, I know I get to see
man.
you, but like.
It's just a rough time of year.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you. But things, obviously mid part of this year, things got really complicated for me. I'm finally in the position where I'm about to do my move and things should be opening up and things are looking really good. And budget wise, like I'm hoping to do a lot of traveling in 2020.
Nice.
Lots of traveling. And so Warfare Weekend, Las Vegas Open, obviously. And then from there, like, I want to see what all I can do. It's nice. I'm at a point with my job where I have more time off. And so I'm hoping to get out there and do lots of shenanigans. But
I'm already excited for LVO. I'm not going to lie. It's really close. And sharing a room every year with you, Charles, is always a joy.
Yeah.
Like, we always make that shit fun.
Yes, for sure.
And we were talking a little bit earlier about the Mark II peeps and seeing like some of our favorite friends, and that's honestly one of my favorite things about LVO is that you get to see all the best people, all your favorite friends, and then we do see some just like you're like, oh, was that Ryan Charaboga? What was he doing here?
Yeah,
He didn't even play War Machine. He didn't even play War Machine. He's a 40K player now, but hey, it's a good time to see people. So anybody that comes out to LVO, start your prep now, start your planning now. You can come hang out with us. It is so easy to take webcams and stuff around now. We should do more episodes.
Oh yeah, it was fun podcasting together on the couch at LVO. But it was funny, like this was the timing last year, right? And we were just like, we're both like, we want to podcast together again. And then we're like, well, what are we playing? Like what games are like do we have crossover? And then all of a sudden we're like, let's just both fucking play War Machine again. Like let's Legion it up. And unfortunately last year I wasn't quite able to try to make Warfare Weekend work. I was seriously looking at it. I was looking at it real close, trying to see if I could force it, but it was not in the cards. It was probably right. I spent the money that I would have spent on a plane ticket buying you Christmas presents.
You did. You got like basically my whole Parliamentarians list. Good old Blighty McBlightface.
Yeah, and now you've fallen in love with Animag and the Blightbringer and your happy time.
It's funny you say I fell in love with Animag because my Animag is now a Manamag.
Yes. Well, your bromance is strong. We've podcasted with you before, bro. But
no doubt.
Well, I mean, with how things were going earlier, and you're like mouth of hell.
Anybody who's listening to the audio only of this now has to go back and watch this on YouTube to figure out what the hell that just was.
What just happened there? Like there was a moment that like you will not get to experience that in the audio version. Like that's a YouTube only experience. Oh man, I'm excited. I should send you a video of me scrolling through my lists in War Room. Like I've updated the stuff to cloud so that I could just like pull it down onto all of my devices, and I've got to get some practice in because I need to figure out what I'm playing at Warfare Weekend.
And well, I'm excited to see how you do and what you come up with because you're jumping into the Shark Tank.
Well, it's not as much of a Shark Tank as you'd expect, but let's just say for a moment that I can get through the LCQ, right? But I go straight out of the LCQ with like no break into Brett Fogel. Probably playing Grimkin, which is one of the more stressful matchups. So let's just say if I get all the way through it, which is still a big if. It's a lot of rounds. There's a lot of chances for mistakes. There's a lot of chance for dice to fail on you. There's a lot of chances for weird ass matchups. But most of the sharks are not in it. So that's the one thing, like LCQ is draining, but you're often like 31 of the best players in the country and world that are at that event are not in the LCQ.
Yeah, but there are so many players at the LCQ who are like, man, I took 3 seconds this year. If I had just been there. And so
Yeah.
they're coming for vengeance. They're coming for blood. And I mean, look at you. You're like, there's not going to be a shark in the tank already.
Well,
Like, don't worry about me. I'm
yeah, no, I'm not. I'm not a shark. I'm a land shark.
you're a shredder.
No, I thought we already determined that I'm a mouth from hell.
I want to paint this picture for our audio listeners only, but all I can tell you is go to watch YouTube
Just
because we're gonna make that a meme.
I was having calamari. It's not my fault.
Well, after you made that sound, you followed it up with, I was gonna send you a video, and I'm like, where is this going?
Oh,
This is not the YouTube experience I signed up for.
yes, it is. 100%. All right. Well, let's go ahead and close out this episode. Thanks again to the Blightbringers. We were going to have one of their hosts on this evening, but some family stuff came up. Totally understand. Family first, no pressure. I was considering wearing my Blightbringers shirt, but Emmanuel got it on. So I'm wearing my classic. I got this at, I think, Lock and Load 2014, something like that. But
Nice.
actually, I think the one I got in 2015 was an XL, and I think I had to buy a smaller one. So I think like PAX later on, I think PAX that year, PAX 2016 or something like that, I picked up a large because I was like, I got littler.
I have a really sad story about a con shirt. So they came out with the War Machine and Hordes ones that had like all the little chibi Warcasters on it.
Yeah.
And I got one for War Machine and one for Hordes.
Okay.
And the year that I went, they had the speed painting competition that I entered and felt so proud that I was going to be able to finally participate in the speed painting competition. But I did not take off my nice new con shirt.
Yo.
And so I'm getting into it and I'm painting and I'm going and I get red all over my shirt and I don't notice. And then we finish and I look down and I'm so it is stained. And so I still have the one like War Machine shirt, but I always miss its twin. I'm like, you lived and died so quickly. You're the Negro of t-shirts.
Fair
Now
enough.
I use it to paint in exclusively, not only, but just to paint.
All right. Well, listeners, thank you for tuning in again. This is, we're going to try to have the audio version out from this the following Friday. That's the goal. But Emmanuel and our lives are calming to a certain extent. And so we're ready to podcast. We're ready to tech out. Like, God, I've been listening to like mad podcasts. Like, I probably listened to like 15 episodes of random shit just in like last week. Like, I was listening to Blightbringers. I listened to Disciples of Agony. I listened to the Meta. I listened to Chain Attack. I listened to Boosted Rolls. I've been listening to all sorts of stuff.
Nice. So, you'll have to send me some choice list episodes. You're like, Emmanuel, listen to this. This is the
I will say, so in some private conversations, I had said that I wasn't enjoying Jay's Patreon show, The Meta. And I was listening to some of the very first episodes, and there was some audio problems, and I ended up unsubscribing because I just wasn't. It felt weird. I was like, Jay is such a great podcaster. This is just not the level of quality that I expect from him. But he definitely cleared that up at some point, and I've really, really been enjoying the episodes now. I went back and I listened to like 5 or 6 of the most recent ones, and I'm really, really enjoying them. Like, you had hosts talking about a variety of different factions. Like, I was really enjoying so he had a Scorn host on, and I'm forgetting his name off the top of my head. I believe he was one of the Australian WTC players. But oh man, I was just really enjoying. Like, he had some really abstract thoughts on Scorn that differed from some of the classic meta choices. Anyway, I just really enjoying that show, and so like I'm definitely a Patreon subscriber again, and happy to listen to more. So
awesome.
Got my shout out going on. But anyway, I think this wraps up the Legioning. I was about to say there can only be one, but no, it's definitely not the right time for a Highlander reference. And I was going to say there can only be 2, but we have just so much Legion family. Like, we are more like the Empire, right? Where it's just like wave after wave, like Hail Hydra. right? Like you
Yep.
bring one of us down, two more of us pop up to take its place.
Well, Charles, when you're at a loss of things to say, there's only one thing you can say.
Lights out.